we're going to have to ask the question, is the D-backs offense finally starting to wake up as they clinch a series victory over the San Francisco Giants?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listening to who? Always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about the D-backs offense potentially waking up as they clinch a series victory over their NL West rival, San Francisco Giants. We'll talk about Jordan Montgomery needing to step up in game number 2, and why Jeff Passan has called the D-backs the Hinge team. We'll talk about all that on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. So please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. But now let's get into the podcast and let's talk about the D-backs and ask the question, is the offense starting to heat up? Because the D-backs clinched themselves a series victory. They did not have to wait to the finale. They have taken care of business in the first 2 games against San Francisco Giants. Game number 1, you of course had that electric walk-off by Pavin Smith in the 9th inning. Jake McCarthy gets it going, and then Pavin Smith with a 2-run rocket to dead center. That's on the heels after the finale in New York against the New York Mets, where you had a 9th inning comeback. So D-backs on the road in the finale against Mets, 9th inning comeback. Then you have a walk-off in game 1 against the Giants. And now game number 2 against San Fran, the offense wakes up in a big way. 8 runs, 13 hits, and the offense looks incredible. And it feels like, I think, we still need a larger sample size. I'm not ready to declare the offense back, but there are signs of life. Again, need a larger sample size before we say the offense is officially back, where the season is turning around. But we are starting to see signs of life in this D-backs offense. 5 straight games now with at least 5 hits from this D-backs team. They have been ratcheting up the hits recently. They have at least 8 hits in, I think, 7 of their last 8 games as well. So the team collectively is doing well. And that's really the point I want to hit on when looking at the D-backs offense recently and seeing the fact that they've been putting up at least 5 runs in a lot of their most recent games. It's not one player heating up. It's not even the guys who have been struggling heating up, because the Gurriels, the Eugenio's, the Corbin Carrolls, all of them are still really struggling. And right now, it feels like this offense is starting to succeed in spite of them. It feels like this lineup that you saw in game number 1 was a really well-constructed lineup of all the best players right now. No Corbin Carroll in the lineup. Lourdes Gurriel was in the lineup. So was Eugenio Suarez, but I love the fact that you had a Jake McCarthy, Blaze Alexander, Kevin Newman, 7, 8, 9. And we'll talk about in segment number 2 how I would like to rearrange the lineup a little bit. But I love the fact that those 3 were at least stacked together. And it was kind of like the lineup was protecting the Eugenios and the Lourdes Gurriels in the lineup, because once we got to Jake McCarthy, it felt like that was resetting the lineup. It felt like Eugenio Suarez is the number 9 hitter. Then when we get to Jake McCarthy, it's like you're leading off again. I felt good seeing Jake, Blaze, and Newman. And then all of a sudden you had the top of the lineup coming up with Ketel Marte. I absolutely love that. I thought this D-backs offense, when you look at it recently, it's all about the collective team effort. The Carrolls, the Suarez's, the Gurriels, they're still struggling. But we're seeing Marte, after he was struggling a little bit coming off that hitting streak, he's starting to play well again. He's starting to drive the ball. Both sides of the plate, too, does not matter for Ketel Marte. Gabriel Moreno, I don't think I agreed with moving him up to number 2 in the lineup, but 2 hits, a couple RBIs, and I do like the at-bats that Gabby's putting together. I feel like he's productive, at least putting the ball in play. I don't feel like he's just going up there hacking and striking out or weak contact ground balls. At least like the quality at-bats that Gabriel Moreno is giving us. Lord Gurriel, he had a hit in game number 2, but not a fan of his style of play right now. He had a couple of double plays and a strikeout in game number 2. Wasn't a huge fan. Christian Walker, he goes up and down. We have no issues with Christian Walker. Grichuk is someone that I would like to see more of. Suarez is struggling. We'll talk about him in segment number 2, some ideas that I have for him. Jake McCarthy has been a beast recently in the lineup. Blaze Alexander starting to heat up. His slash line after game 2, 296, 357, 435, as he gets 3 hits, and he was the MVP for the lineup, I believe, in game number 2. The bottom of the lineup put in so much work for the D-backs. They were one of the big reasons why the D-backs were able to score so many runs in those middle innings of this ball game. That trio felt like they were on the same page and played in unison. Love the fact that this D-backs offense also did a great job of scoring early and scoring late. 3 runs in the third. Then you see the Giants score a run in the fourth. So the offense comes back and scores their own run in the fourth. And then in the 7th inning, they put 4 runs on the board because the D-backs, we always say they don't score late. Well, they answered by putting 4 runs on the board and really capitalizing on the lead. Bryce Jarvis did not do his best job. He shrunk the lead, of course, with a huge bomb to Mike Yastrzemski, a 3-run shot. Bryce Jarvis, his ERA is now over 4, but thankfully Paul Sewald came in the 9th and shut it down. Sewald was fantastic in the bullpen. Justin Martinez continues to dazzle. Joe Mantiply did his job. Kevin Ginkel, I love seeing him in the middle innings because it was still a big moment. Runners on when he came in the ball game to relieve a Blake Walston, but it wasn't like the 8th inning. Like, it had an 8th inning feels in terms of the pressure, but you look at the scoreboard and it still says you're coming in the 5th inning. So for Kevin Ginkel, kind of got out of the jam. One of the inherited runners did score, did go against Blake Walston, but Ginkel, I thought for the most part, looked fine. Blake Walston, his command wasn't the best in game 2. He allowed 4 walks. The Giants did a great job of making Walston work the entire start. He had like 50 pitches through just the first 2 innings, 88 pitches through 4 and a third. But I still like Walston a lot overall. He's still young. He's still raw. And I do think of like the pseudo starters, the Slades, the Ryan Nelsons. Blake Walston might be my favorite right now. But great to see the D-backs offense start to wake up. They come alive in game number 2. They've been coming alive recently. And for this D-backs team to continue to play well, we would love a series sweep. Would love to see the D-backs climb in the standings as they have now leapfrogged the Giants in the NL West and the wild card standings. D-backs a game back of the 3rd wild card spot, and if they want to be set up to secure it, then they're going to need Jordan Montgomery to step up in a big way in the series finale against the Giants, and that's what we'll talk about in segment number 2. But before we get into that conversation, if you're thinking about buying tickets to an upcoming D-backs game, then the best place to do that, of course, is going to be Game Time, because Game Time is the best place for last minute deals. Save up to 60% off when buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. My favorite thing to do is the flash deal. You save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. You have zone deals, which save you even more when you choose a section and you let Game Time choose the seats. All in pricing. You put this little feature on and it shows you your total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And you can even see the view from your seat before you buy. So if you want to take advantage of all these features, because I don't know why you wouldn't, take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked on MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Let's get back to the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. If you like the show, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for the personal account. Follow Millard Thomas123 on Instagram for the personal account. Always add a Dbacks game, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. The reason that you guys need to follow me, because if you're watching this on YouTube right now, I have a little ball from the game that I caught. Casey Schmidt. I know he's on the Giants, but a little foul ball. I was in the nice little home plate section, the BMW lounge, I think, whatever it's called. I was sitting over there. Hot zone for foul balls. Made a crazy diving play to get this one. Check that out. Official Major League ball. My actual first ball that I ever caught at a Major League game. So I wanted to check that out for the YouTube audience. That's why you guys subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks YouTube and follow me on all my socials so you can catch me catching wild foul balls at D-backs games. But now let's talk about the finale. D-backs versus Giants, because we got Jordan Montgomery on the mound. And the D-backs need Monty to step up for various reasons. The offense is starting to come alive right now. It's starting to look good. And in Monty's most recent start, it was not the offense that was a problem. The offense showed up in a big way against the New York Mets when Monty was on the mound. I think the D-backs lost that game like 10-9. Like, the D-backs did their job. They put up like 3 runs in the first inning. Like, they scored early against the Mets. They had them on their heels. All we needed was Monty to come out firing and make us feel good as D-backs fans that Monty is a guy that we paid him for, and he can secure a lead when he gets run support early. But Monty was not able to do that. Monty was immediately bad, and I think he gave up 4 earned runs right after the D-backs scored 3 runs in the first. Just a bad Monty start. I think he's in desperate need of redemption going against the San Francisco Giants. I've been a big defender of Monty this season. I talk to D-backs fans all the time. They say, Monty, he's kind of mid. I don't think he's that good. I've been saying Monty, I think he's been solid this year. Can he be better? Yes, but I don't think he's been as bad as the ERA. But after his most recent start against the New York Mets, I can't defend Monty right now, and he just has to pitch better. He's getting paid a ton of money, one of the highest paid players on this D-backs team. I think he is the highest paid player, making $25 million this year. And so when you get paid that amount of money, you better step up and be good, especially when the D-backs are down their best pitcher and their second best pitcher and their third best pitcher. You better step up if you're the highest paid pitcher, Jordan Montgomery. No Gallen, no Kelly, no Erod. This is your time, Jordan Montgomery. When you get paid $25 million, when you come off a World Series ring, we expect you to step up when the rest of the rotation is down bad. And so far, he's not been able to do that. But a lot of that can be redeemed against the San Francisco Giants, an NL West opponent in the wild card race. You take down the Giants if you're Monty, and you start buying goodwill with D-backs Nation. You look at the pitching arsenal for Jordan Montgomery, and it has not been the same this year as it was last year in terms of his pitch effectiveness. Specifically, when you look at the sinker and changeup, those 2 pitches last year were dominant for Monty. He had a 255 average against his sinker and a 239 average against his changeup. This year, the sinker, 373 average allowed, and that changeup, 357 average allowed. Way too many hits on those 2 pitches. Monty's always been a guy that pitched to contact, but this season it has not worked out in his favor. He is getting crushed by right-handed batters this year. which is not a total surprise because Monty's a lefty, but it's to the degree right now where just way too much of 320 average and a 900 OPS allowed against right-handed batters. Way too much pop in those right-handed batters' bats right now against Monty, and he needs to figure that out. He needs to calm down those platoon splits because right now righties are absolutely killing him. And he also needs to be better when there's action on the bases. When he runs into a jam, Monty has not been that good this season with his back against the wall. With the runners in scoring position, Monty, 375 average allowed, 965 OPS allowed. We need more from the highest paid player on the D backs. He hasn't been good against righties. He hasn't been good with runners in scoring position. And two of his three go to pitches haven't been effective this year. We need better Jordan Montgomery. And the D-backs desperately needed with the injuries to their rotation right now. If Monty does not step up and get a win against a Giants team that is vulnerable right now, you look at that Giants lineup, it just does not scare you. Jorge Soler has not been good this year. Matt Chapman, he's been good against the D-backs on the season. He has not been that good. Michael Conforto, he's like all right, and that's like your big three: Chapman, Conforto, and Soler. Like maybe in like 2016, I would have thought, oh, okay, that's a little trio that you got going over there. But right now in 2024, I'm not scared of that trio, and I'm not scared of the rest of that lineup for the Giants. So if you're Jordan Montgomery, this is a perfect opportunity to go out there and rip the hearts out of Giants fans, especially with them reeling a little bit on their losing streak, with Bob Melvin, their manager, being upset at them for how they're playing right now. You can really rip the hearts out of Giants fans and players and their manager if you go out there and take a big victory from them if you're Jordan Montgomery. And to do that, do we need to see a Jake McCarthy every single day? Because I love the fact that he played against the lefty. Good job by Torey Lovullo to do that. That's not sticking to your old ways. Jake McCarthy, only lefty in a lineup full of righties with a lefty on the mound. Love that. Need more Jake McCarthy moving forward. Does it mean Corbin Carroll sits more against lefties? I don't know, but right now Jake McCarthy is playing well and Corbin Carroll is not. I also think we need more Blaze Alexander every day. I think that means sitting Eugenio Suarez more and going with the left side of Kevin Newman and Kevin Newman and Blaze Alexander. And then once Perdomo comes back, we will need to have a conversation about whether or not Eugenio needs to be DFA'd because Blaze, I need that bat in the lineup every day. And defensively, he's not going to get better without repetition. And so we need Blaze playing as much as possible. And Kevin Newman just straight up has been better than Eugenio this year. So I'm not mad at all if the D-backs want to keep him over Eugenio Suarez. And finally, how about you give me a combo of the top three in my lineup of either Marte McCarthy Marte McCarthy and Jock Peterson. When there's a righty on the mound, how about the top three in the lineup be Marte, McCarthy, and Jock? And then when there's a lefty on the mound, Marte, Grichuk, and Blaze Alexander. I want to see more Grichuk and Blaze in my top three. I want to see Jake McCarthy more in my top three. And then in either scenario, you can still have Kevin Newman batting ninth. And then if there's a lefty on the mound, you can still have Jake McCarthy in your lineup batting eighth with a Kevin Newman batting number nine. And then all of a sudden, you have maybe Marte, Grichuk, and Blaze in your top three. Then you go to Christian Walker, and then it's Lourdes Gurriel, Gabby, Eugenio, then back to the guys that you like. I think that lineup makes a lot of sense and is really strong for this D-backs team. I like the fact that Torey Lovullo's getting funky with the lineup. I think we have to continue to do weird things in the lineup until everyone gets back on the same page and we see some of the stars in our some of the stars in our lineup start to step up as well, because right now it's Marte, it's Walker, then it's a lot of the complementary pieces stepping up. We need Caro, Eugenio, and Gurriel to step up because the D-backs are starting to play well, starting to resemble signs of life of a playoff team, but they're not going to get to the level that we want without the whole offense coming around. Now we'll talk about why the D-backs can be a hinge team according to Jeff Passan in segment number 3. And if you still believe in the D-backs long term, then why not place a little bet down on FanDuel because it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. My favorite thing to do on FanDuel is the same game parlay. Give me Dbacks money line, give me Marte over in total bases, and give me Jake McCarthy steal. When it hits, it brings a big smile to my face. If you want a big smile on your face, visit fanduel.com/locked on and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And let's talk about why Jeff Passan has been tweeting out, can the D-backs be a Hinge team? First of all, if you don't know what Hinge is, it's the place that I live because I am diabolical and I am dirty and I am on the dating apps. And Hinge is my favorite one right now. So, ladies out there, if you ever see me on Hinge, don't be afraid to see a like. Hinge is a dating app where you can send likes to other folks if you know you want to potentially match with them. And Jeff Passan is calling the D-backs a Hinge team because they have a whole lot of players. You can go up and down the roster and choose who you like off the D-backs team and potentially match with the D-backs as a trade partner. Because the D-backs over the next few weeks, over the next couple months, they are in the predicament of, do we want to be buyers, sellers, or stand pat at the trade deadline? And that was the whole point of Jeff Passan's tweet, calling the D-backs a Hinge team. They have a lot of players that could be on the open market, and your team could be the perfect match for the D-backs. But it all depends on how this D-backs team continues to play over the next couple of months. If this team continues to falter and they're like 4 or 5 games out of the wild card by the time we get to the trade deadline, it would not be a surprise at all for the D-backs to unload some of their players because there are guys you could get a decent return on. You're not trading Gabriel Moreno. You're not trading Ketel Marte, but Eugenio Suarez, he could be a guy that could be on a move. Still plays good defense, but has really struggled offensively this year. A team would have to convince themselves that a change of scenario is all Eugenio needs. But I think we all know he is just at a different point of his career, and the peaks of Eugenio might be gone, and we might just see more of these valleys with the strikeouts from Eugenio. Still owed 15 million next year as well. So the D-backs will probably have to eat some of his money. I think it's a club option for next year. Still owed money though this year, double digits. So D-backs will have to eat some of his money if they want to trade Eugenio and get a decent return. Christian Walker, he's an expiring contract, but even if the D-backs are like 12 games out of 500, I don't care. I'm not trading Christian Walker at the deadline. I'm doing whatever I can to re-sign Walker this offseason. A nice 3-year, $60 million deal. I think that would be fine for Christian Walker. 3 years, 45 to 60. I would be pretty happy with that. I want to do everything to keep Christian Walker solid offensively, 30 home runs, 100 ribbies, and plays the absolute best defense at first base in Major League Baseball. That's hard to find. I don't want to just give him up in a trade deadline deal. How about a guy like Lourdes Gurriel, just re-signed with the D-backs, not making crazy money? I don't think the D-backs would be ready to move him just yet. I think he would need to have another season of not playing too well, I think, for the time being, considering he's on a guaranteed deal for this year, 2025, and then a player option 2026. I think the D-backs at least ride it out in 2024, and then we will reevaluate in 2025 if things don't change. Corbin Carroll, he's not going anywhere. I don't think the youngsters like Perdomo, Blaze, Thomas, McCarthy, I don't think they're going anywhere. Guy like Jock Peterson, he could be potentially moved. He's making decent money this year and then 14 million in 2025 with the season he's having. Lefty, power guy, DH. He's definitely someone that I think a lot of teams could be interested in if he ends up hitting the trade market. Maybe the D-backs want to unload one of their rotation starters like a Jordan Montgomery, who is on a guaranteed deal for 2024 and 2025. Is he someone that you're like, okay, hasn't worked out with him this year? Maybe another team, another playoff contender could really use him. He is a guy that likes to be tossed around at the trade deadline. So wants to see if that changes, if the D-backs start to or if the D-backs continue to just not play well, if Jordan Montgomery is another guy that becomes available. The bullpen, Paul Sewald, he's on an expiring contract. Again, Sewald is the guy that I would like to re-sign. It's been so hard for D-backs to find a closer. Justin Martinez, I love. He could be the D-backs closer of the future, but for at least the next 2 years, I still think it should be Paul Sewald. So if the guys that are most likely to get traded, it's probably Eugenio, Christian Walker, Jock Peterson, probably Randall Grichuk as well, Paul Sewald, and Jordan Montgomery. But again, it all just depends on this D-backs play. They continue to play well over the next few weeks, climb in the wild card standings, and are like second in the wild card with a 2.5 game lead by the trade deadline. I believe this team would either stand pat or at least try to upgrade the bullpen, or maybe you get frisky and you trade away third base Eugenio Suarez because you think it's addition by subtraction. Whatever it is, if the D-backs are in the playoffs come the trade deadline, I think they're doing whatever they can to be better in the second half and have a postseason run. But if the D-backs are a few games out of the wild card come trade deadline, don't be afraid if the D-backs are a Hinge team looking for their match, which is a trade partner to unload some of these current contracts on their payroll. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.